Hey, what's up guys? I hope you're all doing well. We have a fun video lined up today. We're going to be getting real nerdy as we dig into the science of action movies, more specifically, the anatomy of an action scene, what elements make them great, as well as looking into why some of them fail miserably. Action sequences can come in a wide variety of styles and themes. You can have shootouts, car chases, a wide array of fight sequences, and much more. So for the specifics of this video, we're going to be covering the fight sequence.
You just earned yourself a dance with the devil, boy.
Fight scenes can involve small firearms, knives, or various other weaponry, but it eventually always ends up with some hand-to-hand combat. Now, the length of a scene doesn't always translate to one being good or bad. They can be long, drawn-out battles or quick, violent blow-ups, but when done properly, these moments will definitely pull you up out of your seat. When done wrong, they can be absolutely cringeworthy and look like a couple kids slap fighting in the backyard, or they can be so over-edited that you'll have no idea what you just watched, as the scenes are so fragmented they can make you dizzy. So before we dive into this collection of clips, let's look at one recent and already iconic scene. This will give you an understanding of how I break down action in movies, this being the Darth Vader Rampage from the end of Star Wars Rogue One. We enter this scene at the end of the film. The rebel soldiers have stolen the plans for the Death Star and they are trying to make their escape. This already builds tension as our good guys are in hostile territory and so close to achieving their goals. Then the scene builds up the suspense one element at a time. First the lights go out, then the sirens begin to sound, the drowning tone increasing the suspense even more as things are quickly falling apart for our good guys. But it continues, the score drops. Attention of the soldiers is turned. We can see the fear on our men's faces as we continue to hear the imposing siren. Then we have silence, each second building more tension before hearing the infamous sound of Vader breathing. It lets it build, then boom, the lightsaber ignites, the score ramps right back up and tension is at its peak, and then it explodes into action. The camera work, the choreography, the musical score, all working together to just create one amazing cinematic moment. But will the plans get out to the Rebel Alliance? The door is almost closed, but the scene isn't over. The lightsaber slides through the door and the soldier as the score ramps back up to climactic levels once again. And it is concluded with this perfect shot of Vader just slicing these guys up. His massive size added with the confined space just create massive amounts of uneasiness as the camera work just gives you a perfect amount of action to make you want just so much more. So hopefully that gave you a better perspective of what I look for when it comes to action in movies. Now there is more than just simply good or bad action. There is a large gray area in between in what I call the serviceable department. Action that is not mind-blowing by any means, but does show some effort, and in the end will use some camera tricks to mask stuntmen or other lapses in the choreography, or is simply just a project getting by with the budget they have. So let's take a look at the scene to dig deeper into what I call serviceable action. That being the final fight between Sylvester Stallone and Jason Momoa in Bullet to the Head, a serviceable action movie. We enter this honestly ordinary action movie climax as our hero and villain conveniently meet inside of an empty building so they can battle to the death without interruptions. We get some typical banter between the foes, complete with a subtle one-liner.
You get a fight or you plan on boring me to death.
Some more banter and another great line before our guys grab the axes and go at it. The action is decent, the shaky camera technique and the overhead shots kind of help mask Stallone's stuntman as our villain makes the traditional early offensive. There's the addition of some quick cuts here and there as well as some close-ups to give the scene more speed and intensity.
Oh! Ouch. You okay?
But we do get some good shots of both performers as Stallone mounts his comeback. The camera slows down enough for us to get to see Stallone land some solid punches. Then we get our slow motion money shot of Momoa launching himself at Stallone with the axe in hand, followed by a textbook test of strength before Stallone delivers the old man wisdom over youth as he closes out the younger and stronger villain to show that he still has it. As well as showing he still has some style as he slips a knife in to take Momoa out with some gusto just before Han from the Fast and the Furious gets his headshot. As you can see, nothing amazing about this scene, but nothing horrible, resulting in some serviceable action. That was an example of what I would consider a serviceable action scene. Still fun to watch, despite not showing loads of ambition. These scenes work for their respected films. They don't make your chin drop, but can still give you that fix when you need some good action in your movie night. Now, before we dive into the good, we might as well get the bad over with. The bad being action movie scenes that show no ambition and not only lack creativity, they try to overtly mask over their inadequacies with just tons of cheap camera tricks. The scene that we're going to be taking a look at is the classic definition of bad action in my opinion, that being the final action sequence in Taken 3, a film that is nothing more than a direct-to-digital action romp that has to definitely thank Liam Neeson and Forrest Whitaker for getting this movie a wide theatrical release when it didn't deserve it. We enter this scene at the end of Taken 3 as Neeson infiltrates the crime boss's hideout. Now this was a terrible threequel that is just filled with bad action that is just poorly crafted on many levels, starting with this jumbled sequence as Neeson takes out a group of henchmen in an elevator. There's no real flow to it as you get a decent visual but still a very choppy one from just overly rapid cut editing. It does get much worse from here, however, after getting this honestly cool shot of Neeson using his smarts. From here the scene quickly goes downhill as we get one of the most over-edited sequences you will see. And it must be mentioned that this segment is unedited as we will be counting the cuts that this single scene is loaded with. That was just a terrible action sequence on many levels, and it is capped off with a little bit more bad action as things do not look good for Neeson before his inevitable comeback.
Get up. Get up!
But I will admit the tidy whities are definitely a nice touch, but overall this was just a jumbled mess and a perfect example of unenjoyable action scenes that are just filled with bad choreography, bad filming, and bad editing. Now that was some pretty shitty action, but for anyone who will make the case that Liam Neeson is approaching his golden years, I will counter with this example from The Equalizer starring Denzel Washington, who is roughly the same age. This scene will show you that with the addition of the right elements, a strong setup to the situation, some depth and substance to the scene, the result can be some intense, well-crafted action. We enter this scene during the middle of the film as Washington's character is visiting some Russians to try to pay off the leader in an attempt to free a young girl from his control. This naturally builds tension as Washington enters hostile territory, aware of his surroundings but at the same time showing no fear. I think the uneasiness is built further with some solid dialogue and excellent performances until things quickly go south.
Take your fucking money and go back to your house and jerk yourself off 9,800 times and then you come crawling back here to talk to me, huh? She will be used up by then for sure. Maybe then I will let you have it for nothing.
A line is suddenly drawn in the sand. Washington knows he will have to kill these men, something that he expresses with his mannerisms and his eyes and his expressions that tell you more than any simple dialogue could. He takes his money before giving one impactful message, so far the key to the impact being the subtlety of everything.
Ruки от души. Bye-bye.
До свидания, папа.
Юные американцы.
Ну да.
But will he leave, letting this girl remain under the control of this gangster? Not a chance, as he shuts the door, letting the suspense continue to rise as he comes to grip with the fact that he's about to kill once again.
You forget something?
Then we get this great sequence breaking down how Washington's character sees the room. This scene at this moment suspends the tension, building more anticipation. He then proclaims his estimated time to kill all these guys, perfectly capturing his confidence, his skill level, and his charming arrogance, telling you that he has been through much more than this without having to tell you. Then the action hits, the suspense is at an all-time high. We get nice fluid scenes with just enough cuts but plenty of clear visuals of Washington's character actually taking these guys out without the sequence really going overboard. It just gives it a realistic feel. You are pulled into it, as this feels like something a man of his age really could accomplish with the moves that he's using. Then it's capped off with the first wave of perfectly crafted bravado between the hero and villain, the methodical score just adding to it perfectly. Then the action stops as quickly as it starts. Washington drops his corkscrew, his victim's body hits the ground. It's crisp, precise, orchestrated perfectly to stylishly close out this sequence. Then we get that subtle element of humor from Washington as he checks his time. He underestimated his surroundings and realizes he still has it, but maybe not quite like he did when he was younger. Something that, in my opinion, only adds a lot more substance to the overall scene. But then it shifts again quickly as Washington surveys his work and sits next to the man that he tried to bargain with that will now never see another day. I think all of these elements show creativity, ambition, and effort despite the age of Washington, and he still proved to be more than capable in a solid action sequence. And that's how it's done. Impactful action that doesn't use its shortcomings as a disadvantage, but instead goes to other routes in order to create an adrenaline-pumping scene. So now let's dive into what I consider to be great movie action. Scenes that deliver adrenaline-pumping moments in very different ways. Great action doesn't have to be wildly intricate sequences. They can be simple, grounded scenes that will still leave a monumental impression at times when the movie may not be so great, but the one thing they all have in common is effort. Effort from the writers, the stunt team, the performers, the choreographers, the directors, the editors, everybody as a collective team. So let's take a look at this scene from Safe House between Ryan Reynolds and Joel Kinnaman to see how great action can come in the simplest of formulas when the effort is present. We enter this scene later in the film as Reynolds' character has brought Washington's character to a remote safe house guarded by Joel Kinnaman. Things feel normal at first as two guys who hold the same position in the agency get to know one another. You can kind of feel some tinge of uneasiness, but you can't be too sure as the two men clearly posture over idle chit-chat for a few moments.
I'm jealous. You got coffee? Yeah. Keep on coming. Yeah? You want to do?
Then the action hits like it is shot out of a cannon as the two characters go at it. The handheld camera technique pulls you into the room, just mounting the tension more. The camera movements are minimal to allow a good flow for the scenes. We can really see the performers' faces as they battle it out, and just added with a realistic fight choreography, it builds the maximum amount of suspense. The scene is meant to feel like a sudden fight to the death, and the delivery of this scene pulls it off completely as they use anything they can get their hands on to gain an advantage. It's gritty, it's visceral, it pulls you up in your seat as the brutality comes across completely believable, the camera work blending perfectly with the choreography and the location to just immerse you in the moment. And you have to tip your cap to both Kinnaman and Reynolds. This scene could have easily been shot differently to allow added use of stuntmen, but they clearly wanted this scene to come off as good as possible, and in my opinion it completely does. They both put their physical abilities to the test, and it all goes together just to create a fantastic fight sequence. As you can see, a simple concept with a grounded approach that adds some great elements to create just an awesome fight sequence. And finally, in our last clip, we will look at a great example of a large-scale fight sequence in terms of choreography, direction, actor performance, lighting, editing, you name it, this scene delivers it, and that would be the scene from John Wick when the henchmen break into his home to kill him. If you want to break into John Wick's home and try to kill him, you're going to need a lot of men to do it, as we see in this clip as Wick prepares to take down a wave of bad guys. It begins with some well-crafted gunplay, the camera just placing you in the perfect positions to get the maximum amount of impact, as the fluidity of the scene just feels seamless. The lighting is perfect to create just enough of an ominous feel, but still allowing for full view of the action, as well as just adding a subtle but methodical musical score over it. The score raises and dips perfectly with the pace of the action as Wick reloads and dismantles this group of bad guys with precision. The choreography is absolutely crisp, allowing the camera to simply film it, and we can see Reeves performing the stunts, which pulls you into the scene even more. The fight choreography is very intricate but doesn't feel overly scripted, despite knowing that it's heavily choreographed. It's just fast-paced, it's violent, it's gritty, it's got a great blend of gun-fu and hand-to-hand combat, and to me the result is just a fantastic overall action sequence. In my opinion, that was an excellent scene from what I would consider to be an incredible action movie. So there you have it, guys. When it comes to fight sequences in action movies, this is what I look for when watching to see what passes as good or bad. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. To me, action movies are an art form all their own. You have to appreciate the diversity in the world when people can see something like this or something like this and still get that same rush of excitement from seeing something awesome in their eyes. Thanks for watching as always, guys. I definitely appreciate it. This was Volume 1. I have 4 more planned. The next video, we're going to be taking a look at car chases and what makes a great one and what makes one look like nothing more than a Walmart parking lot the day after Thanksgiving. Also, let me know in the comments below, guys, what are some of your favorite action movies or action scenes? I had so many that I was thinking about talking about, but I really had to narrow it down for this video. As always, thanks so much for watching once again, guys. If you enjoyed it, drop this video a like, make sure to subscribe so you never miss anything new. As always, I'm Anthony, this is the Silver Screen Analysis, and I'll see you at the movies.